good tournament, but probably not at the level of quality that maybe we've had in the past.
There's too much to make people turn off and not come rather than make people turn up.
Rugby league pricing is all over the shop.
I think it's probably right that he's decided to move on.
Hello, welcome to episode 10 of the James and Matt on Sport podcast with myself, James Gordon, and Matt Turner.
Double figures.
Double figures indeed.
Who'd have thought we'd get this far? I'm so proud of us.
Yeah.
Thanks to both our mums for both their support.
Yeah. No, to be fair, we are a little bit later than usual recording this week, and
it's all this fault.
It was, well, it's slightly harsh, but some people did message me saying they were missing it, so thanks to both of them.
Yeah, no.
And yeah, we're going to talk about the Euros, obviously. Mm-hmm. I don't know what we're going to talk about next week, to be honest. We'll have to.
Well, yeah, we're going to have to think of something. We're going to have to think of something new to talk about. It's been quite a convenient time to start a podcast out, hasn't it? But
so, unless you've been in a coma, England lost the Euros final 2-1 to Spain, and subsequently Gareth Southgate has resigned as England manager. I'm sure there are people rejoicing at the fact that England lost and Gareth Southgate is no longer England manager, and those people are idiots.
Well, that's quite strong, isn't it? I mean, I think I saw, the UFC fighter Paddy Pimblett, who's from Liverpool. I saw him put on his Instagram wildly celebrating Spain's winning goal.
Well, but is that because that's the whole...
Yeah, and they've got their reasons for being a bit disassociated with the England team, and I totally get that. But it just sort of... It's not what I wanted to see in the immediate aftermath of the of Sunday.
I think I've seen lots of things. I've seen people say that England have got this far despite Gareth Southgate, which I think is complete nonsense, because I think whatever you think about the style of football that they play, he's still the coach. Clearly, he's done a lot of work around the mentality, the protecting the players. The relationship with the media is a lot better than it was. The pressure around penalties and things like that, he's done an excellent job. And the bottom line is, and I don't care what anybody says, England have got to 2 European Championship finals and a World Cup semi-final, which is unprecedented for any England manager. People say, "Oh, well, he had an easy draw." Well,
he can he?
Yeah, he can only beat what's in front of him. And the thing with that is, I think, well, so if the new manager comes in and gets beat in the second round at the next 3 or 4 major tournaments by a big team, is everyone going to be like, "Oh, well, it's all right because he got beat by a better team"?
Yeah, I mean, I've been quite vocal, as you know, about the whole Southgate thing, more so on air than anything else, because I've on social media and things like that, I've kind of withdrawn from the debate around it during this Euros, because it's, as someone who's always backed him, it's become a toxic. Well, it was already toxic, but it's become an increasingly lonely space, sort of backing Gareth Southgate. So I've just sort of told myself I can't be bothered with it. But I think we've said on here a few times, haven't we, that we thought whatever happened in this tournament, this was probably going to be Gareth Southgate's last, and I think it's probably right that he's decided to move on, if for no other reason for his own good, to be honest, because I don't think it must have weighed heavy on him.
It's probably the right time because of the grief he was getting, but I think people will soon realise that actually they had it pretty good. What gets me, and what's been getting me, is people have been going on as if the squad's like peak Barcelona. And this is what I don't get. People are saying, "Oh, England have got the best squad they've ever had." They're complete tosh, that. This England squad, the players that they've got, is not, in my opinion, is no better than, or not even any close to some of the ones in the mid 2000s, even in the mid to late 90s. Yeah, there's some decent young players, but they're not. But the way people have been going on is, it's like, well, this squad is miles better than everybody else's, and it should walk it. And Gareth Southgate's holding it back. But I'm like, well, right, Bellingham, clearly top player, plays for Real Madrid. Foden, top player, plays for Man City. But I think if you look, they've not. It's not like, in my opinion, it's not like the 2004, 2006 teams where you've got 1 to 11. Well, apart from David James, 2 to 11 was like superstar in each position.
Yeah.
You're going to have to look at the players. They had Lewis Dunk, they had Adam Wharton, players like that. With all due respect. And that's what gets me a little bit as well. People are sort of like, have overhyped the players to, and I'm not saying that they're bad players, but they're overhyped the players to the point where it's like, well, the only reason they're not winning is because the coach is terrible, because these players should walk the tournament.
I'll disagree with you a little bit. I think 1 to 11, I think, let's say Euro 2004, I think, because I think that was the peak of, 2004 to 2006, I think is probably the peak golden generation sort of thing. I think 1 to 11, they're better, but beyond that, I think this squad probably is a little bit deeper in certain areas.
But it's like people go on about say Palmer, and I like Cole Palmer, but if he was going to play, only one of him and Saka can play. Now, is Saka the problem in that England team? No. And that's the thing. It's like people, you can only play 11. Do you know what I mean? And
that's the thing. That is the thing in it, because I think a lot of our exciting young players all happen to play in the same position. Like Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden both play in the same position.
Yeah. I still think if Grealish should have gone, for instance, I think England might have had a bit more I think there would have been a change. I think Grealish perhaps would have played instead of Foden for some of the games.
I'm not curious as to what Jack Grealish is holding over you.
No, but I just think I think part of the issue that it's been is that they've been trying to play, and you could blame the manager for that. They've been trying to play in a way to fit certain players in when clearly there was no balance. They were much better when Luke Shaw played, and clearly that's that's been an issue. But ultimately, whose fault is it that there wasn't another left back?
Well,
available?
Yeah, I mean, he could have picked one. He could have picked Ben Chilwell. He could have picked, maybe Tyreek Mitchell or someone like that from Palace. But he opted not to, and that's his manager. He'll live and die by his decisions, won't he? But no, he did look a lot better when Shaw was on the pitch. I thought he pocketed Yamal.
Yeah,
so much so that he had to move to the other side.
They're just more balanced going forward as well, because he's giving you that overlap. He certainly helped in the semi-final. I think the Harry Kane was the biggest issue for me in the final.
Yeah,
like he's playing as a number 9. That's what he's in the team as. He's continually dropping back. They don't need him to drop back. They've basically got 2 holding midfielders and 2 number 10s. You don't need your number 9 to come back looking for the ball. But then, not only that, he didn't go for a header the entire game. He didn't go up for a header in the entire game. Like England are going long, he just stands there and sort of like, but he wasn't getting up. He didn't win. I don't think he won one header in the entire match.
And that's not great when you're forced long, because we couldn't play through their press. They got their press absolutely spot on.
Well, that's Spain. They're the masters of that. And then I think, but what also annoyed me the most about Kane as well was that when Saka or Luke Shaw got him behind, he's like withdrawn. He's on the edge of the box, or he's wherever. He's not. Whereas he should be in the goal mouth. He's the number 9. He should be in the goal mouth. So when that ball comes across, it should be him who's there, and he just wasn't.
Well, it's like the Holland game. I don't think we recorded since the Holland game, have we? The goal that Ollie Watkins scored, which I nearly got concussed celebrating, by the way, but that's another thing. The goal that Ollie Watkins scored. Can you imagine Harry Kane making that run?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing, isn't it? And I think, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't have played Kane, but I think ultimately what's gone wrong in that Kane is playing, and whether you could say is that Kane or is that the coach, but whatever role he was playing, it was just a waste of time. They might as well have played with 10.
I think the way you get the best out of Kane is if you have pace. I think Kane's best times for England has been when he's had pace either side of him, whether it's Rashford or Sterling or Saka or whoever, and he's got people who are going to go past him and fill the gaps that he leaves. And he's shown that for Tottenham as well. When he's playing with Son and Bayern Munich as well, they've got wingers and players who can go past him and fill the gaps. But no one really did that for England, did they?
Well, no, and that's because they're playing with 2 number 10s.
Yeah.
The reason why no one's doing that is because they're playing with 2 number 10s, so it should be the centre forward who's doing the running or doing the channels and stuff like that.
I do wonder if it will spark a a wider conversation about Harry Kane's international future. Because I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that he should step back or anything like that, but I think conversations may be had. But that's for the new managers to decide, isn't it?
Do you think there should be a conversation about the captaincy? Do you feel like he plays because he's the captain?
Yes and no. I think he's clearly he's clearly the leader of that side on the field, and also it's easy to forget he scored 60 odd international goals, and he's not exactly coming off a poor season either. He scored like nearly 50 goals for Bayern Munich this season.
There was clearly talk of him being injured. He's carrying an injury of some sort.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, but I think it's a tough one with how that panned out. But by the way, there's no proof, I wouldn't say, that playing someone else would have resulted in a different outcome.
No,
I think there was an incident when Palmer's come on, he scored a goal or whatever, but then he lost the ball in a terrible position in the centre circle, and Spain nearly scored. That was before he went 2-1. And it's like little things like that people are raving for someone like Cole Palmer because they wanted to score, but then that making a mistake like that can potentially cost you the game.
Yeah, especially when it's tight like that. It's 1-1 in the closing stages. I do think, though, when Palmer scored, it almost sort of came out of nothing, but I think there was, 15, 16 minutes to go at that stage. I think for a 5-minute period, I thought we had them. I thought we've got them on the ropes here. This is what we need to carry on doing. But still, we're just sort of, and I think you have to put the blame on Southgate for this. We just retreated. We played for it. We played for extra time. Like Conor Gallagher was coming on.
Well, I mean,
before Spain scored.
I seen a video on Twitter of a throw-in that England had near the corner flag, near the attacking corner flag that Kyle Walker had, and he's thrown it all the way back to halfway, like a long throw back to Stones, and then it's gone back to Pickford, and then Pickford's launched it forward. It's gone out for a goal kick, and for me that sums up. Well, two things it sums up. It sums up maybe a negative attitude, but it sums up modern day football for me, because it's like, well, keeping possession. You're in the corner. We scored off a long throw in one of the games, but how on earth are you getting a throw in that? You've worked however hard to get up to that far end of the pitch, and then you've got a throw in, and you're launching it all the way back to your centre half and halfway just to keep the ball. He then keeps the ball by giving it to the keeper, and the keeper lashes it because there's nowhere to go to. And it's like, is the purpose of football to keep possession, or is the purpose of football to score more goals than the opposition?
Well, yeah.
And I think now, you watch football now, we was having a laugh actually in the office about what's football going to be like in 50, 60 years. You'll probably not be able to pass it off the floor and stuff like that. It'll just be that. But that leads me into my next discussion. I've seen that some people calling for Rodri to win the Ballon d'Or.
I saw this, and I knew this would rile you up a little bit, wouldn't it? Because Rodri, for the record, I like Rodri. I think he's a great player, but I think he's sort of I think you've said in there, haven't you, that he epitomised what you feel, what football's become, hasn't it?
He's not a bad player. Obviously, he's technically very good, but it's like, is it entertaining to just watch a player pass it sideways endlessly throughout a match? Or press or whatever. Spain, to be fair, looked better when he was off. Because, they had someone who was a little bit more rough, a bit raw and rough around the edges and got him forward a little bit. Now, clearly, if he wins a Ballon d'Or, he deserves a Ballon d'Or. But it's like, and I'm not saying that players who play in that position can't, but he's not like the defensive, he's not like, say, a Steven Gerrard who was combative and, put his foot in and tackled and got forward. And he's not that sort of play. He's not like... Maybe it's just a case of, because football's changed over this year, over these years, you don't have them sort of personality type players. But I just think, he plays in a dinner suit most weeks.
How did you feel when Modric won it? Because I could watch Luka Modric all day, me.
No, but I think with Modric I think there's a bit more to him than Modric has got a bit more in him than Rodri has. Because Modric is what, 38 now. Modric has been one of those players where he's played in lesser teams and, pulled them out the bag, and, he's got forward, he's got beyond the man, he'll take a few risks here and there. Even, what was that? Who was that he scored against in the... Was it Italy?
Oh, it was
scored
Italy.
again?
Yeah. He missed the
Like,
penalty and then scored,
Yeah,
didn't he? Yeah.
like Rodri doesn't get in that position for the second goal. For the goal after he missed the pen. And it's just that's it for me. I just look at someone like Rodri and I'm like, I couldn't think of one moment in Rodri's entire career. And I'm not saying that that's not a reason for him to win the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
But
you wouldn't actively sit down and watch a Rodri highlights
that's
video,
what I
would
mean.
you?
If someone was doing a Rodri highlights video, what on earth would be on it? And I'm not saying that doesn't mean he's efficient, and that doesn't mean that he's, a good player or a useful part of a useful team. But yeah, and I just think you get to a point where if every player played like that, would people watch football?
Yeah. And yet we're all doing a merry dance at half time when he got subbed. On Sunday.
Because,
I think by the time I stopped, Spain had scored.
Yeah, and, the bottom line is it's about scoring goals, isn't it? And it's like it's pointless keeping possession.
Yeah.
You might as well have a go. Like that situation with the Kyle Walker throw. If he throws it into the box, they might score. If he throws it in the box, keeper might catch it. As it was, he threw it back, they lumped it forward, they didn't score, and they didn't keep the ball anyway. So why not just have a go?
Yeah. Well, I guess it all depends on your point of view, doesn't it? It's like, because you could say, goals win matches, but if you don't concede goals, you don't lose matches. And you don't...
well, and that's fine, but I think...
And you don't concede goals if you don't have the ball.
People just endlessly passing the ball to stop the other team from scoring?
Maybe. It's a way of doing things, isn't it?
But, and I seen there was Sam Allardyce. I seen a video with Sam Allardyce. I think we touch on this the other week. I seen, and he was basically saying how it's almost become a thing where this possession game is seen as like pure football. Like, this is how to play football. But his argument was that, well, who's determined that that's pure football? Why isn't playing down the wings and crossing it in, or even going long or whatever? Why isn't that seen as pure football? I always thought Sam Allardyce was a bit unfairly sort of pigeonholed as a manager. When you look at some of the players that he had at Bolton, like JJ Kocher and Djorkaeff and players like that, players like that.
He was more adaptable than he was given credit for,
that's not
wasn't
a long ball team. That's not a long ball team. But like I say, the argument he was making was, well, if they play attractive football or they're entertaining to watch, and they play the long ball every now and again, what's wrong with that? Why is the decision being made that pure football means 10-yard passes along the floor, in little triangles through the middle and then tap it into the goal? Why is that being decided that that's the way?
I wonder if City, whenever they score directly off Ederson's long kick, which they have a few times, I wonder if Pep Guardiola doesn't count it.
Well, when I watch Man City, I just think all they need to do is sign someone who, a bit like a kicker in the NFL. They just need someone who can score from 25 yards, because the amount of times that City are just passing the ball from one corner flag all the way up along the edge of the box, back to the other corner flag and back. And you're just thinking, if you had someone who could find the top corner every time, you'd just be able to get him free in the middle, shoot, in.
Yeah.
Whereas because all that happens is the other team end up with 10 men in the box behind the ball, so they can't get through. City are just then passing it back, and they might go back to the defenders and stuff. And I'm just thinking, you might as well just cut to the chase here. Just get someone on who just sits in that D on the edge of the box, and you're basically manoeuvring them around to get him free, and then he just shoots whenever he gets the ball.
Yeah.
Because, it does wind me up that.
Dissecting football with James Gordon, people.
Yeah, it does wind me up that. And I think, and people listening might disagree with me, and feel free to comment and call me all sorts. I'd be interested to hear people's opinions on it. But I just think, for me, the beauty of football is that there's different ways of playing it. There are different variations. And I just think, we need to be like, well, we need to understand that it's not just about playing that way. And ultimately, I think that's part of the reason why people are looking at this tournament as it's been good, but has there been any superstardom like we've seen in previous?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking on the way here about who I'd give player of the tournament to. It's like, is there anyone who made you jump out and go, wow? And you immediately think of Lamine Yamal, but is that more because of how young he is?
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, he's done some amazing things in this tournament, but I think everything underpinning that is how young he is.
Yeah, I think Williams has been the better player.
Yeah.
Nico. Williams has been the better player. I don't know if they don't play at the tournament yet. I'd be surprised.
I think Rodri got it.
All right.
I think, I was still watching. I was still fighting through the tears and watching through the presentation. I think Rodri got it.
But if you look at the way that Williams and Yamal run the ball, the direct, they've got a proper number 9. I'm not a massive Morata fan or whatever, but he's a proper number 9 who plays up there. Both the fullbacks like to get forward. Carvalhal's decent. He's a good player, and then so the way that they played was. They were probably, they won the tournament. They were by far the most consistent team. They were the team that really got going.
Yeah.
It felt like nobody else really got going other than Spain.
Yeah. No, I think I said to people before the game, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't have cared, but I think if we'd have won that tournament, we'd have robbed them.
They were almost by far and away the best. You even look at Germany. Can you remember any of the Germans really doing anything? The French team. People go on about England, by the way. Well,
what about France?
France were, even whatever you want to call it, boring, worse, whatever. They were. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think
I don't see Deschamps having to quit in. Well, I'm not saying Southgate's quit in disgrace, but. No. He has to some, but now we're...
and I think, you look at Italy and how far off they were, and, there were some performances from some of the lesser nations, which was good. It was a good tournament, but probably not at the level of quality that maybe we've had in the past. And is that because of the current situation of football where it's about keeping the best teams or the most successful teams at the moment are ones that endlessly keep the ball and effectively make it not impossible, but very difficult for the other team to do anything. They almost like stifle them or starve them of the ball to the point where they're lying on the canvas and they can't do anything when you chuck it at to them. Yeah.
No, they just keep the faith that they're going to break eventually, and most teams do. But no, I don't think it's a tournament I'll remember.
I did see,
for long.
Anyway. I did see. I know, going back to the Southgate thing, I saw somebody say, no one's going to remember, that Southgate got to 2 finals.
Rubbish.
Compared to winning in 6-6. I was like, that is absolutely ridiculous.
Rubbish.
We come at England didn't qualify for tournaments.
Yeah.
And I get that it's easy to qualify now because there's more teams, but England didn't qualify. England didn't get out the group stages to get to the final, playing badly.
Did you you were in Brazil, weren't you, for that World Cup?
Yeah,
where
2014.
Were you at that game? That Costa Rica game?
Yeah.
So, that was effectively a dead rubber, that game. So we were out of that World Cup 10 years ago before the last group
England
game.
were already out when I got to Belo Horizonte.
Yeah. And that's, people got to remember that. That's where we've come from. Like when Gareth Southgate took over, we'd literally just been turfed out of the Euros by Iceland. Massive, certainly in my lifetime, and in the lifetime of many others, the biggest national footballing embarrassment that we've had as a nation. With the greatest respect to Iceland.
I was actually flying back from... I went to the Euros in France.
Yeah, I did.
I was flying back when that Iceland game was on.
I'd flown back the day before.
And so I knew they were getting beat 1-0, and then I think...
We went 1-0 up, didn't we? We went 1-0 up for a penalty.
Oh, is that what it was? It was 1. I knew it was 1-1 then, or whatever. And then I remember getting some signal on the plane just as we were coming down, and it was like they got beat 2-1, and it was like, geez. And then everyone in baggage return was like, couldn't believe what was happening. Like,
but that's where we've come from, right? Watching England was a chore then. It felt like you were watching it because you had to, out of some kind of national duty almost. Watching England, for me, has become fun again in these last 8 years. I've actually enjoyed watching England go through tournaments in a way that I never felt was possible. And that's all on Gareth Southgate's watch. Whether people want to say it's despite of him or whatever, I don't think it is. I think he's had a massive influence. But I hope he knows, in walking away from this job, despite how it may look if I don't think he goes on social media, but if he did, I'd advise him not to, or read the newspapers or whatever. Despite how it may look in certain sections of the media and on social media, I hope he knows that there are people out there, a lot of people out there, who are genuinely grateful for what he's done as England manager. And all I'll say to whoever comes next is, I can't swear on this podcast, but good bleeping luck.
Yeah. Because
whatever you think of Gareth Southgate, the bare essential facts are he's got 2 finals and a semi-final in 4 tournaments, and a quarter-final where we got beat by the eventual beaten finalists. That in itself is a hell of an act to follow. And now, whoever the new manager is, I really hope he takes us to that next level. This is not me putting a neg on whoever comes in next, right? I genuinely hope we get someone who kicks us on to that next level. But I hope they know that now, apparently, winning tournaments is the minimum standard. Nothing else is good enough.
And this is the thing, all these people who are criticising Southgate, are they going to have the same approach to a new coach?
I hope so. Put it this way, I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on a lot of people's opinions as this new manager comes in and how things unfold over the next 2-4 years, however long. Because it's only fair that they're held to the same standards that Gareth Southgate set. And as I said, I really hope, because there's some really solid foundations in there, I really hope that someone comes in and builds on it, because, well, that next step is winning tournaments. And if someone comes in and does that, great. But if they do, Gareth Southgate deserves a hell of a load of credit for laying the groundwork. Well, he didn't just lay the groundwork. He pretty much he's rebuilt the house, and he's almost put the roof on. There's just that little tiny bit leaking at the top. It just needs someone to seal it up. That's literally it.
So, before we move on from football, we ought to mention that Warrington Town beat Rochdale 3-0 last week.
As if my weekend could get any worse.
There are unconfirmed rumours that Rochdale asked Matt Turner to play in their next pre-season friendly. How bad they were.
They weren't great, were they? They weren't great.
I wasn't too keen on the Rochdale manager's attire, I have to say, in the game.
No,
he was where it looked like he'd gone shopping with his missus on a Saturday.
Yeah, I think he must have. I reckon he's been to Marbella, landed on Saturday morning, but Ryanair have lost his case, so he's had to drive to Warrington, stop at Golden Square, gone to Primark and got whatever he could get his hands on.
They have signed that trialist keeper though, haven't they? And I didn't think a great deal of him. He played second half, didn't he? I think
yeah, he did. Yeah, Luke McNicholas. But he kept a clean sheet, unlike the guy in the first half. Not much. He didn't have much traffic go his way, but no, I enjoyed the day. It was a very weird meeting of worlds for me.
I didn't, because I was waiting for you to arrive to go for our usual lunchtime sort of, salad, whatever we have.
I'm sorry.
I absolutely got stood up.
But I'm sorry. But walking into that ground on Saturday, it was like being in Cheers. Like everybody knows your name. It was brilliant. Like you walk around, everybody knew you from both sides. I was feeling pretty chipper, I have to say.
And you got a gift?
I did get a gift. Yeah, no, the James Toby, the Warrington chairman, and Canners, the goalkeeping coach, they very kindly sorted out a signed Rochdale top for me, which was it was a very touching moment, I have to say, when I was presented with that. That was very nice of everybody.
Obviously, it would have been nice to have got you a home shirt, but of course Rochdale didn't have one.
No, they didn't. But
less said about that.
Yeah, less said.
You wrote an article last week. Well, you wrote multiple articles last week, but one in particular seemed to get a little bit of traction. Or, well, when I say got a little bit of traction, I tweeted about it. So
yeah, I'm glad you read it.
I would like to. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how much that boosted the traction. Anyway, you were basically talking about Warrington's attendances. Yep. Warrington Wolves, this is.
Yep.
Now, I'm going to caveat this. I'm trying to find my tweet, actually. I'm going to caveat this by saying it's not just a Warrington problem.
No, it's not.
I was at St Helens last week, wasn't it? I can't even remember when it was. And they only had 9,800, and I say only 9,800 in for a home game, which is poor by their standards. But it was interesting to see a lot of the feedback you've got. I don't know if you want to surmise the article, Matt. And
Yeah, so I basically put out that so Warrington's 10th Super League home game of the season was on Thursday, just gone. They beat Leeds pretty comfortably, and I thought it was a pretty decent time to sort of look back. I think a lot of factors fell into place. The fact it was 10 Super League home games, the fact they have the exact same.
The maths is easier.
Yeah, maths is much easier. Their records are exactly the same this year compared to last season in terms of home games: 7 wins, 3 defeats. And this game was actually their lowest Super League crowd of the season so far. The crowd was 8,471. Now, depending on who's listened to it, I've heard that the actual number of people in the ground was a significant amount lower than that. So
because they include season
tickets on the
which I have no problem with, by the way.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with it. But that was the given attendance. The real turns attendance was actually much lower than that. So it kind of got me thinking, because I think anyone who listens to this podcast who is a regular at Warrington Wolves home games would agree that the place is looking a little bit more sparse this year, and the atmosphere has been very, very flat. I think actually the best atmospheres I've seen at Warrington Wolves home games this season are 2 games they've actually lost against Catalans and Wigan.
There's actually people are booing.
No, like like that Wigan home game. I think they had all the kids out, and you'd be forgiven for thinking if you were walking past they'd actually won that game. The place was alive, and that Catalan game they were coming back from a big deficit, and the place. I remember saying to Adam, the media officer, who's a mutual friend of ours, when they were coming back, if they score again here, this place is going to go off. It was that loud in there. So I thought I'd crunch some numbers. And their average attendance at home this year for Super League games is 9,655. This is it's far from the lowest in Super League. But at this stage last year, their average gate was 10,936. So that's a drop of just under 12%. Now, there's mitigating factors, of course, but I had a look at the spread of when games are held, because no one likes Thursday nights, which is what Leeds game was. No fans like it. But the spread's pretty similar. Like I think 5 games are on Friday, as it was last year. I think there's slightly more games on a Saturday this year than there was on a Thursday. And last year it was reversed. But we're still in a cost of living crisis. You know, people haven't got as much as spendable income. But the main difference, I think, is every fixture's on TV this year. So it's easy to watch your side without going to the game. Now, I put this to Carl Fitzpatrick, the Warrington chief executive, in pre-season. I asked him whether he thought this TV deal would have a significant impact on crowds. I won't quite say he laughed it off, but he did dismiss it and didn't think it was an issue. But I think it must be. It must be, because if you're a fan and money's tight, are you going to go to the ground and spend? If you're a dad taking your lad, you're not going to get much change out of £100 for an evening out at the rugby.
But is that because it's on TV? Is that an issue because it's on TV, or is that the issue? Is that an issue with the pricing? Is what I would argue. I think part of the issue you've got, and I do think the TV thing has an impact, but at the same time, people want to watch games on TV, so you can't have it both ways. You know, when people, if there's not a game on a Thursday night, people moan, "Oh, I've got nothing to watch on TV." Well, if you want a game on TV, you've got to watch someone. I do think it has some impact, especially based on the demographic of rugby league fans. But I also think that if you sorted some of the other issues out, it wouldn't. Ultimately, people can. Every Man United match is on TV, but they still get 80,000 watching. Do you know what I mean? Or or Leeds United's probably a better example in football. Pretty much all of their games are on TV, but they still sell out every week.
Yeah.
So, what are the other barriers to getting more people? You're still selling that live sport experience. It's still, you want to watch it in TV, but there's nothing like going to the game, and so I'm sure you're going to go through some of the feedback. But my point was, and I think I looked at the Warrington ticket prices are bordering on obscene. I think.
Yeah.
And they're not the only club, by the way. I think rugby league ticket pricing. I think one, there's far too many layers to it in terms of. I think I looked at Warrington there. I mean, I'm going to count them here. There's 3, 6, 8, 11, 14, 16, 19, 22, 25, 28, 31, 32. There's 64 different price points for Warrington tickets. How complicated does it need to be, right? If you want to sit in the goal in the north stand, is the north stand standing or is that?
No, that's the main stand. So where we sit in the press box.
£35 in advance or £37 on a match day. Like, there's no need for it to be that high. And I think part of the issue, and this isn't just a Warrington problem, I think rugby league's been squeezing its diehard fan base for so long.
Yeah.
And they always think, oh well, we'll just put it up £1 or £2 this year, but. Then you get to this situation where, because they've been doing that now for 10, 15 years, you're now at the stage where the pricing is just completely...
Yeah. You've hit people's ceiling over time, haven't you?
Yeah, and the thing is, you're not necessarily getting new people in. And then the other thing is half the ground's empty. So it's like, it's not a supply and demand thing, because you've not got people queuing up for tickets where you could sell more, if you do the pricing. I think people are getting bored of playing the same teams over and over again. I think the lack of. I also think the whole premise of the season now is turning into. It's basically just a dress rehearsal for the grand final. The regular season games largely, the playoffs are done pretty much.
Yeah. You know which teams are going to be there or thereabouts at the end of the year, don't you?
So the games, they're just going through the motions. And I think that's a massive... And that's been doubly worse this year because you've got no relegation either, so you've not got any jeopardy at the other end of the league.
Yeah.
I think the lack of consistency on fixture times and days, that's why the football, and I'll argue this with anybody, and I'll argue it till I'm blue in the face, the football will do well because it's consistent. Saturday at 3 o'clock, bang. And... that comes back to this TV argument, because clearly you can't have consistent times if you're going to have TV games.
Yeah.
But Rugby League could have said, right, we're going to have one game on a Thursday, one game on a Friday, and then everyone else plays Saturday and Sunday, but they didn't. And then, all the changes to the rules and the laws, I think they turn people off as well. They're my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think there's too much to there's too much to make people turn off and not come, rather than make people turn up, isn't there? At the minute, there's too many things that people aren't sure about or aren't happy with to keep giving it the support, and it's sad in a way, because I feel like, from a Warrington perspective anyway, obviously the team are a lot more convincing this year. You don't feel like there's going to be the sort of alarming disparity between good and bad that there was last year. But, like I said, the ground's half empty and everything just feels flat. So as a player, you must sort of think, what more can we do here? But, like I say, there's a whole variety of mitigating factors. There's a wide variety of reasons, but
they're in survival mode. It's not a Warrington thing. They're in survival mode.
Yeah.
The Rugby League desperately clinging on to being full-time operations when the TV money's going down. They're obviously having to scrape around for more and more revenue by nudging the prices up. And like I say, that's why it's going to get to a breaking point where you can't squeeze any more out of what you've already got. And Warrington probably do more outreach into new people than most rugby league clubs.
Yeah.
Liam Brown, who we know well, he was telling me about the thing they've done with there's a big Hong Kong community in Warrington. They're trying to get into them.
Yeah.
But Warrington aren't helped by the constant nonsense that goes on in rugby league, changing the structure, the anti-sport systems, the constant rule changes. It's hard enough to, and that's one of the things. All these people who are new have no idea what rugby league is. It's hard enough to educate them on the game,
Yeah.
without then having to educate them on, well, actually, it doesn't really matter if we win this week because we're in the playoffs anyway. We're going to play that. He's banned this week because he tickled someone last week. Stuff like that. And it just gets like, there's things like that are beyond the club's control.
I'll put it down to this, right? So we're recording this on a Wednesday. Let's say I've never watched rugby league before, and I'm off work today, and I've decided to flick through Sky Sports and happened upon the State of Origin third game today, which took place today. I've watched that, and God, as a rugby league fan, it was an unbelievable game to watch. I've watched that, and I think, you know what? That's brilliant. I want some more of that. I Google my local club. Oh, Warrington have got a team. I'm going to go down to their next home game.
It's 35 quid.
Yeah, 35 quid, and the game's not the same. It's the two professional games don't play by the same rules. And it's all of a sudden thinking, well, what's different? Why is this not happening? Why is that not happening? And straight away you're confused, and
I think the bigger issue as well with the prices was just how expensive it was for kids.
Mm.
So my son's 8, and I think my son would be receptive to go into Warrington. He wants to see what the Warrington Stadium's like. He wants to watch Super League. He knows about rugby.
Should bring him to touch rugby next week. You'll see an exhibition.
Yeah, he knows of rugby, and Warrington Wolves go into his school and stuff. But if I wanted to take him to a game, it's costing me like 15 quid to get him in.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's outrageous for a kid under 10.
And that's what I mean. And so I've got to pay 15 quid.
Would that be to stand up?
No, the standing up one. The standing up one is 12 quid in advance, 14 quid on the day.
Right.
For 6 to 11-year-olds. But even then, it's still like, well, standing up in that stand for an 8-year-old kid isn't.
Like they can't see or anything like that.
It's just like, and I'm not a Warrington fan. My son's not a Warrington fan, but Warrington are the elite team
around
here. That if I wanted to take him to watch rugby to engage with it, but I just wouldn't because of the price. And then, I've seen a lot of people saying to you about the concourse, the price of food and drink, and the availability of food and drink, and the facilities, getting a bit tired and stuff like that. There's nothing else really that gets you. Before we start knocking around some other things, one of the other points that Johnny Gordon, he's quite prolific on Twitter, isn't he? A Warrington fan. He made a list of all the different prices he's paid at games this season, and that summed it all up for me. He's paid 13 quid at Catalan away, a bit of an anomaly. But then he's paid 25 quid at OKR, but then he's only played £18 at St Helens, and rugby league pricing is all over the shop.
Yeah.
But keen to know everyone's opinions on that.
Yeah, no. Hopefully we can do a bit of market research and help these clubs out and try and
that's what I mean.
Try and figure out the problem.
But they don't. But this is why I made this point in a tweet. The thing is with rugby league and whatever, the fans say these. The fans tell people what the problems are. The fans say about the loot fixtures. They say about playing the same teams all the time. They say about the pricing. They say about Thursday nights. They say about the law changes. They say about the anti-sport system, no relegation, whatever. But they don't listen. And then they start moaning, or they're surprised at when people drop off. Clearly I support a team that's in complete oblivion now. Like even Warrington probably don't have a clue what's going on at Widnes. Like I've had a few meetings with Carl. Like they're in their own bubble, surviving in their own, and it just goes to show as soon as you drop out that Super League, you're almost like completely forgotten about, which is fine to point. But the fans feel like that too, so they just think, well, we'll just walk away from it.
Yeah. But we're going to Vegas, so it's okay.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a massive difference between sort of them top 5 or 6 clubs and everybody else.
Yeah.
But ultimately, them top 5 or 6 clubs can't play on their own. They've got to have other teams as well. So, before we sign off, we wanted to. Well, Matt always likes to have some cricket in, doesn't he? So,
I love me cricket.
James Anderson played his final Test match last week.
Yeah, sad times. Still got it.
I still Test match cricket should always be Thursday to Monday, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's weird. It's weird.
I also think this though about international football. They've completely ruined it with all the and again this goes back to this consistent kickoff time. I don't even bother with England matches in the qualifiers.
It's always Friday nights and Monday nights,
Yeah,
isn't it?
because you can't. Whereas it used to be, they play Saturday and then Tuesday or Saturday.
I'd love to go down to Wembley on the odd occasion to watch England.
Yeah, well, I'd like to do the aways and stuff. Like it must be great to do stuff.
Yeah,
like, to go to random places.
Yeah,
but anyway, but someone posted a graphic I seen, and I can't remember how many players it was basically a list of all the players that James Anderson had played with in his 188 tests.
It's extensive.
And what really I enjoyed was the goal. I remember it was the golden era of when cricket was on Channel 4. And I was probably in my mid-teens, something like that, watching every Test match religiously in the summer. Mark Butcher, Graham Thorpe was one. I used to love a bit of Graham Thorpe, good batsman. I mean, there's a lot of names on there that I could never pick out in a crowd, to be honest. How many was on the list? I should have wrote this down.
I thought you had the graphic there.
I have got the graphic, but it doesn't tell me how many are on it. I could count them, I suppose.
Well, I've got one for you if my Wi-Fi cooperates. So I read something the other day. So James Anderson's 42, right, which is a great age to still be playing professional sport, and it's credit to sort of the nick he's kept himself in. So the team in his last Test match, there was something I saw put out about how old they all were when James Anderson made his debut, which was 2003.
Right.
So Zach Crowley, the opening batter, he was 5. Ben Duckett, the other opening batter, was 8. Ollie Pope, vice captain, he was 5. Joel Root, he was a relative veteran at 12 years old. Harry Brook was 4. Ben Stokes, the captain, was 11. Jamie Smith, who made his debut in that game, he was 2. Chris Wokes, he was a veritable grown man at 14 years old. Gus Atkinson, who's effectively taking Jimmy's place, he was 5. Shoaib Bashir, who is a spinner who didn't get a ball in the last Test, he wasn't born when James Anderson made his debut.
Wow!
And he's just played in his last Test match. That's the longevity of the man, and what a servant to the game, and what a player, and he could still do it. Don't get me wrong, he could still do it. I think if he could certainly go around for the rest of this summer and probably even next as well.
It's a weird timing to drop out, isn't it? Sort of in the middle of the summer.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think,
is he playing for Lancashire?
Well, it's undecided yet. He's spending the rest of the summer with England as sort of a bowling mentor / coach, and then I think it might be up to him whether he stays on with Lancashire. I hope he does as a Lancashire fan, but we'll see. But no, Godspeed, Jimmy.
I might maybe after Warrington Town get high up, maybe I can move my attention to getting Cheshire into the county championship.
Well, there we go then. Yeah, you can take over that. You can take over that market next.
Thanks everyone for listening to
guys.
This week's podcast. Every episode's available on various podcasting channels: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, blah blah blah. Please do leave any comments and questions and a review. Drop us a tweet at OnSportPod.
Yeah.
We're going to need some talking points.
Yeah, no, let us know what you want us to talk about, whether it's anything weird and wonderful in the world of sport. We're quite happy to sort of have a gab about it.
And we're on the cusp of having our video setup studio.
So close. We're actually sat in your new office, aren't we?
Yeah.
JDG Towers. It's coming together, but no, hopefully you'll be able to see our beautiful faces very soon.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us, everyone. That's full time for now.
Thank you.